What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for April 4th, 2022. 3.17 is on the PTU, and it's not stable at all. They are selling a ship I might actually buy, and CIG stole something else from Eve. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week and put it into one video and throw my opinions in there as well. Also, if you haven't yet, I do live stream on twitch.tv/SaltEMike every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, we have a lot to get through today, so we're going to start with patch notes updates. 3.17 Wave 1 PTU. Most of you already probably know what's in the patch, so I'll spend some time highlighting some of the major features and maybe some sneaky ones that you might not have noticed. But the elephant in the room is that this patch is mega unstable. So it's hard to realize if any of these features are good, great, bad. It's hard to give feedback on any of them because servers are crashing, you can't spawn ships, there's lots and lots of problems. But for the features, let's start out with Maria Pure of Heart. It's the Hurston Hospital. Nothing too crazy here, but it looks pretty cool. And if you're into that type of thing, you can read all the signs in the area. Some of them are like insane. They also added clouds to Hurston as well. So those are the updates to Hurston pretty much. Then ship-to-ship refueling. I found this to be pretty fun and enjoyable and really kind of grasping at what kind of situation you would use the ships for. And refueling, it's hard to say at this point. Ships have been balanced for fuel. All these changes have come into 3.17, and we don't know exactly what those changes are yet. Again, because the servers aren't staying up that long. Shopping and selling. A UI was created to allow for selling. Shops currently only buy the same items that they sell, and more importantly than anything, I think, is that the price varies based on the number of items in the shop's inventory. Then quantum integration. It's dictating the price of fuel, repair, rearm. These three things are the only three things that Quantum is dictating, but fuel with refueling, it's actually kind of a big deal, and we'll have to see how it plays out outside of the PTU because everybody has a ton of money in the PTU. Mining gadgets. They're handheld items that do the same thing to ease mining of rocks that your laser did, and consumables and modules did. So they speed up, slow down mining. They do make the green zone larger, instability and resistance. They raise and lower those. Nothing monumental here, but pretty cool, I guess. Ship components update. You can now store ship components in your ship's inventory in that I menu. This isn't much of a big feature for now, as it is for later, where it could open up a system of trade, the ability to do this and create player interactions with each other based on reputation, things like that, who can earn what sort of components, right? That is a pretty big deal if you ask me. Ship desync improvements. Apparently this is much better now, and should improve any PvP interactions in the future for players, but there are still some quirks and stuff like that with desync. Purchasable containers. This is kind of cool. I don't think a lot of people knew this, but you can buy the 1/8 SCU boxes, the ones that you can carry from like delivery missions, from cargo decks to store items like weapons and armor and that kind of stuff in, just to make it easier to travel or trade those things. So that's actually kind of cool. And then minor changes. So river, tier 0. I don't think this is a big deal because the river doesn't really provide any gameplay of any kind, just potential ones in the future, and it's also just the one river. It's not that big of a deal. Location inventory split. Major landing zones and their orbit stations, their inventories are now split when they used to be together. So your stuff on Hurston will not be on Everus Harbor. And yeah, so now that last hospital is there, they don't need to do that anymore. Ground vehicles signature adjusted. They're much lower now, so you can fly under the radar a bit more with these than you could in the past. That's definitely from some Jumptown feedback, I think. FPS weapons refactor, a lot of animation and recoil changes. I saw a bit of these with playing some Star Marine, and I think they still have miles to go before this can be considered like an acceptable FPS experience, but any work towards that is good. Hunger and thirst, they sped these up a bit, but the servers don't stay up long enough for you to know if these changes are good or not. I have a feeling they're a little too aggressive, but we'll have to see. Player injury changes. We should be getting more injuries now. I'm not seeing that in my experience. I'm not getting injuries until after I'm downed twice, not just once. So I'm not sure if this is still making sense. If there's issues with it, we'll have to see. Third-person camera. This is a sneaky one. They made it more stable with the menu change, and it should help with people who makes videos and such. And then a number of ship balance changes. Thrusters, heavy fighters now have 2 shield faces instead of 1. That's actually a pretty big deal. And you could stagger more weapon types now, up to 750 rounds per minute, I think. And EMP missiles and other missile improvements. So there's EMP missiles now. Rattler missiles are a thing. There's a lot of missile improvements that are in the game now as well. We also had a 3.17L patch on the PTU. This one added the Misc Hull A, the Scattergun, and Rocket Polish Pass. The Misc Hull A is very cool. I did a final, or not a final, I did a little review of the ship on my second channel. The link will be at the top right if you guys want to check that out. In my opinion, the ship certainly upped Misc's interior standard. I think it really got me excited for the Hull C, as well as any potential reworks for past Misc's ships, because they're pretty old. And then that Scattergun and Rocket Pass is, we've had a ton of issues with these, and explosion damage. So they removed explosion damage, and I assume this has something to do with a lot of the issues we've had with that, destroying components and things like that. A lot of bug fixes as well, and the big one that sticks out to me is the ROC mining. The rocks will no longer rotate around the collection laser. They'll no longer spiral, and that's actually a big deal. So rock mining might be back on the table, because scanning was also fixed as well, I think, in the original 3.17 patch, excuse me. Another bug I'm still experiencing that was fixed here in this PTU patch is the UI bug where you can't see the inner thought prompts. So that's pretty game breaking, and they'll have to nail that one down before they go to live, I would think. And then we had a roadmap update. Roadmap Roundup was very minor. They had a checkpoint/skip point tool. This is simply a tool being used for Squadron 42, maybe the future in Star Citizen. It's just development stuff that I'm not sure is super important for us to hear about, but you know, they're sharing what they're doing. Then for release view, they added columns for the rest of the year. There's no content added to them. They're just putting them there for some reason, and then it's 3.19 and 3.20. Nothing named 4.0. I think we all know that when we move to Pyro, it's probably going to be called 4.0, so they're either keeping that close to the vest, or they know they're not going to make that mark, and I don't think they will either. Misc Hull A, again, it's been added to the patch as we mentioned previously, and yeah, pretty minor update for the Roadmap Roundup as expected. Now, moving on to video updates, we had an ISC on the Misc Expanse. And it is a refinery ship that was first shown to us at CitizenCon 2019. But in case you aren't aware what it does and what refining is, they do explain it a little bit here.
Whereas the Expanse can be the middleman, where you take on board mined goods, you process it, and then you can either sell it yourself, or you can transfer it back to a cargo ship, and they complete the whole gameplay loop.
I think the really big thing to note here is that the refined ore is either sold from the ship, as most cargo ships work, or it can be transferred to a cargo ship. So this does turn ore into a physical box, a physical commodity, a container, something that can be moved around, which is so versatile for where the game could go in the near future, where it can go in the distant future. It just gives them all the options they could need, and that's just good hearing that. They also talked about how it compares to other ships with refineries like the Starfarer or Odyssey. Next.
The Expanse is the starter ship in the sort of refinery tier. We have refineries on other ships such as the Starfarer, but they're more specialized into purely doing fuel, where the Expanse has a bonus over them. Is it has what we call reactors on them, and at a very simplistic level, one reactor is one refinery process, and the Expanse has 6 of them on board, so it allows you to potentially do 6 entirely different refinery processes simultaneously, or for maximum output you can do 6 of all the same type and really sort of improve your bandwidth, so to speak, of refinery.
First, just calling ships like this a starter is just plain crazy. I'm sorry. This thing will most likely cost above $200. It's not a starter ship. It's just the smallest. You know, there's a difference, I think. Second, this creates more questions than I think it really answers. What I want to know is all about ship-based refueling. It's gotta be a mini game of some sort, and it must be faster than station-based, because station-based takes hours upon hours upon hours, and it's meant to work while you're not in-game. So when there's a Q&A, I will definitely be asking that. They talked a lot more about the art of the ship, but I'll leave most of that up to you guys. If you want to check it out, the link to the Inside Star Citizen is in the description. All the footage that was used when we talked about the patch was from this ISC. So they did a patch review of their end of the quarter. Hey, this is what 317 is going to be. So I utilized that footage for when I talked about what 317 was going to be. So I don't think there's any need to touch on that in this video section, since you've already saw all of it. Then SCL going away with Jay Lee. As most of you know, Jay Lee and Jared are very good friends, and Jared is heading to the UK, and this is like their last show where they can hang out and goof off before he heads out. So link in the description if you guys want to check that one out. I'm sure it was really fun. I haven't had the opportunity to see it yet, though. Other updates. Sneak peek. Hey guys, this is your weekly Road to Pyro picture. So Pyro stations, more little sections of a station. They're going to show this for many more months to come, so I don't think it's really anything to get excited about. Then we had a Galactopedia update. The feature article is about an art foundation, and then the rest are just typical planet and moon stuff. But there is one that stands out. There is an underwater city that was mentioned there, so that's kind of interesting. And then there was an April Fool's joke. They made like a silly dating app thing, but Eve did also, and it makes it look like they stole it from Eve, but most likely there's no way that there's any communication and anybody knows what anybody's doing on April 1st. But Eve made a comment on Twitter about it. It's kind of funny because of the, you know, I think it's the Vulture, right? So the ship that was kind of stolen from Eve, and it's just this back and forth they've been having. So pretty funny. So April Fools or Triggerfish in Star Citizen, little dating app thing. And yeah, links in the description for everything that we talked about today. That's really it for this week. I know it's a big deal. 317 is out, but video updates are kind of slow. Roadmap Roundup was pretty slow. So we're really just talking about what's in 317 that we can't even see right now. So hopefully next week we'll have a bigger update, more to talk about. If you guys want to talk or hear about my thoughts on 317, we did do a answer the call about it, where we heard what everyone thinks about it, what its potential. I think this is potentially the best patch that's ever come out for Star Citizen in terms of the direction of the game and its potential for the future going forward. Just super unstable, which is a problem. So we'll have to see if those really fun things or that potential can be realized at some point. But guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you leave a like, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought about the video, and make sure you hit subscribe, and I'll see you guys all next week.